there, I'm Amy Connell. Welcome to Graced Health, the podcast for women who want simple and grace-filled ways to take care of themselves and enjoy a little chocolate. I'm a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach who wants you to know your eating, movement, and body don't have to be perfect. You just need to be able to do what you're called to do. This podcast, the Graced Health podcast, debuted in October 2019. And quite honestly, I had no idea how it would go. I knew I loved listening to podcasts, and probably if you see me with something in my ears, I'm listening to a podcast, but I wasn't sure what I would think about being on the other end. Well, today marks the 200th episode of the Graced Health podcast. 200. I can't believe it. But I can honestly say that it overflows my soul. When I began, I really just envisioned doing solo episodes, and just kind of speaking with part of my journey and what I have learned. And I still enjoy this. I typically do this now just on the last Tuesday of the month, where I just kind of have a grace-based, faith-based conversation. And then, of course, in addition, I do the Ask the Trainer episodes on Thursdays. But what has been so impactful and meaningful to me is the conversations I get to have with other people. This podcast, I have to say, it has just given me such an opportunity to reach out to people I don't know, or maybe those online friends that you get to know in the space of Instagram or Facebook. You guys have heard from several of them, whether it be Reverend Donna O or Yanni Proctor. We talk a little bit about her, Dr. Richard Harris. I mean, these are just people I've been able to reach out and say, you have some really wonderful wisdom, and can we talk about it? And they say yes. Not all the times. There are definitely times that I have had no or no response, but often they'll say yes, which is always a lot of fun, and I'm always honored. I'm so grateful to connect with people on a deeper level and learn from them. And that's just been such an unexpected blessing and enjoyment out of this podcast. As I was thinking about how I wanted to celebrate 200 episodes, I considered doing several things. But what really seemed the most authentic to who I am and to what I love was to hand the mic over and have an intimate conversation. Today, my walking partner, Laura, is interviewing me instead of me interviewing someone else. Laura and I kind of go back. She used to be a participant in classes when I would lead group fitness classes. And then we really got super connected about I think it was about 5 years ago. She had said, hey, if you're ever looking for a running partner, I love running with other people. And then right around that time, I started training for another half marathon that I had did. And I said, I need someone to run with. And so she said, sure. She's always up. You guys, always up for anything active. And anyway, she's also graciously allowed me to transition to more walking than running as my body has started giving me some different signals. Now, professionally, Laura is a director with a Fortune 100 company. Personally, she is just a deeply committed friend, mother, and wife. She's really active in her church and her community. Her faith drives everything she does, and she really inspires me to love and serve others better, which, you know, I try and do. And then if you have read Your Worthy Body, my book, and you've read the acknowledgement section, you will see an acknowledgement to Laura in there. So this is that Laura. She got her own shout out because she was just so instrumental in encouraging me throughout the process of writing the book and was a great listening board. I think you will agree that Laura did an awesome job, asked thoughtful questions, and definitely knows me well. This was an unscripted, unprepped conversation. She came in very prepared. You're going to hear how many questions she had ready for us. We did not get to them all, by the way. But I had no idea what she was going to ask. So I definitely had to think on the spot. You'll hear what she brought to enjoy our time together. And be sure to stay until the end when I really wish I had the look on her face. I wish I had it like on video or camera. And then we laughed so hard that I had to adjust the audio levels down when I was editing this, which this really didn't have a lot of editing, but when I was just going through making sure everything was good. So join us as we settle into a couch on a cold, I'm using that in quotes because it's Houston. It never really gets that cold, but on a cold for us day. And also just a heads up, we did record in person. So the audio quality isn't quite as good as it normally is. And then at one point you'll hear one of my family members making a protein shake in the background. But such is the season from working from home. I mean, hasn't that happened to all of us? And then finally, if you are interested in checking out some of the backlist of the 200 episodes, I know it can be hard to know where to start. Make sure you sign up for the monthly journal. I'll have the link in the show notes, but it's basically gracedhealth.com/monthly-updates. And when you do, you'll get 3 welcome emails from me with a handful of popular episodes about our fitness, faith, and food. It'll get you started in all things Graced Health. And then from there, all I do is I email you once a month. That's it. I'm not going to junk up your inbox because I don't want mine junked up. And then finally, I have included the show notes of the few episodes that we mentioned. So sit back, relax, enjoy. I hope you laugh along with us and enjoy this celebration of 200 episodes. Here we are.
All right. Yay.
Is this weird?
A little bit. But
It's a little weird. We're just recording and this is probably going to go live, just so you know.
Okay.
Well, you know how the beginning of this goes is like, I will introduce you before you and I come on.
Yeah.
So everybody knows you're my friend and everybody knows you're my walking partner. And if they've read the book, then you are the Laura in the back with the acknowledgement section.
Right.
But you and I don't normally talk like face to face very often. We're side to side.
Yeah, you're right. And it's like, girl, we go deep, fast. And so it's like, okay. So that's one thing I was going to tell you, like some sign like, whoa, no, or some word like, hey, chocolate or, something like, let's not go down there.
Well, I'm the editor, so I can edit anything out.
Okay, that's true. All right.
But we'll just go ahead and jump in.
Okay.
All right.
I'm excited.
This is a weird, because I'm used to being interviewed.
Yeah.
But not for my own show. And it's like, what is my good friend Laura going to ask me?
And we want it to be a conversation.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And you know so much. So I kind of put this was kind of hard for you.
It was really hard because I do know so much.
Yeah.
Because I want to be authentic. And so it's like, I've heard that before, so I'm not going to ask her that. Well, no, but that's great. Her listeners should know that about her. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, we can dig in.
Okay. All right. So I get to start?
You're going, like, I am handing the figurative mic
so
to
then
you.
I need props, right? Okay, so
you're digging. This is why you brought a backpack.
Healthy living with a lot of grace and a little chocolate.
Yes, my tagline.
And I know you love wine, but I'm not going to contribute to your January fall. So we've got, for your listeners, we've got sparkling light Concord grape juice beverage. All right.
You know I'm dry in January.
So you can do that because I know you're dry in January.
We can open that up when we're done.
Okay. Well, then we'll.
Oh no! For real. You came ready. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I didn't run over here with my backpack. I rode my bike. You're so funny. And then our Thelma and Louise glasses.
Oh my gosh.
So,
do you want me to open this?
Yeah, open it.
Okay. All right. I'm liking the way this is starting off. Man, we should have waited till February.
Yeah. And then we got to have chocolate.
Oh my gosh.
So here's our chocolate.
And it's Dove, my favorite.
I know it's your favorite. And it's the dark chocolate.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, Laura, you have already made a first.
Okay.
With having beverages, wine or wine alternatives.
Well, so can
while
we do
drinking,
for
your
400th episode, can we do real wine?
Yes.
But not, maybe can you make February your no drinking month?
I don't know when, we can even explore that for the 300th. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe I'll have another one out by then. Probably not though, because that's only a year away.
Okay. Well, maybe we do it in a year.
Okay.
Okay. So I've got several questions and I've got actually, I think 24 questions for you.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
24, yes.
Okay.
But we'll probably get to 3.
Okay.
So the first one is, like, I want to start with you, right?
Okay.
And I'm curious to see how you answer this question, but you know, you've been a certified fitness trainer. You are a nutrition coach. You're a public speaker. I know you've spoken to schools and clubs and business organizations and churches. You've spoken to my church. So what I want you to answer is, can you describe yourself in 5 words? Not using that description, because we know that about you. And I know you're a mom and a friend and a wife.
Okay.
Like, who is Amy Connell?
Well, this is an interesting question. So do you want me to answer it as I am, like, right now? Because the me right now is very different than the me from 25 years ago.
Ooh, that's really good. Okay, so do 25 years ago and do now.
Okay, so 25 years ago, I would say, well, we can put these words together as one, but like black and white.
Oh,
So it was one way or the other.
okay.
I think I don't know what the word is, but I don't think I lacked the confidence that I have now. Mm-hmm. I just was unsure. So that'll be number 2. So black and white.
So 25 years ago was your 20s.
Yeah.
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 Like right
Early
as I was,
20s.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking about like right as I was exiting college and going into
Got it.
my adulthood, which just for whatever it's worth, keep in mind, I graduated from college in May of 1997 and I got married in July of 1997. So, it's interesting because my husband and I say we kind of grew up together. We both had to
Right.
grow up in our own ways.
Right.
And I give him full credit. Like this book is to him because he was super integral in where I am, but that's not answering your question. So black and white, unsure, joyful,
Yeah.
which I think is probably both sides
Yeah.
from then and now. Influenced back then.
Yeah.
And faithful, I think would be, faithful to, God, faithful to, obviously my husband, but more in,
Yeah.
to my friends, all of that. So now 25 years ago, I would definitely keep the joyful and the faithful.
Uh-huh.
I would, say more confident. I have my days just like everyone else.
Yeah.
Curious, I think, has probably been my biggest transformation in the last 10 years. Like, oh, we don't agree on something. Tell me more rather than you are wrong.
Yes.
So that has been.
Yeah. I want to dig into that a little bit too.
Yeah. And encouraging, I think, would be my other one for now.
Okay. Well, that kind of gets into because if you think about, moving in after college and then to now, that space in between, like, when was it that you decided, now you've got a podcast and you've got a blog and you've written a book and you're a public speaker. Like, when along that path did you decide, I need to give back, I need to give more? And this is
in
the
that
route.
realm.
Yeah.
Well, really, I never decided that. That was definitely God. Mm-hmm. So when I moved here into this house, which I think was probably right around when we met. Mm-hmm. So my youngest was in 4th grade. I think you and I met like for real because you'd been in my classes, but we started running together when he was in 5th grade. But, we had moved in here. This was, something that we had wanted. We had spent a lot of time and energy on. And then I just was really unsettled, which is kind of counterintuitive, right? Like, you built this house and you're super excited to be here. And then just something was really unsettled. And all along the way, while we were building this house, I would have people go, you need to write you need to do a blog. So this was in 2014, which blogging was a little bit more of a way of communication then. And I was like, no, I'm not. The world does not need another health and fitness blogger. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And I really just said, no. And I had all of these little whispers along the way. until I just felt so unsettled. I didn't know what to do with myself. And I remember being, I think you heard this story some at my book launch party. I was with my Bible study girls and just like, I don't know what it is. And just being like, just knowing that I needed to take that to God. So really what he said, I mean, I spent a lot of time in prayer. Spent a lot of time just sitting with him outside. And that's when he kind of started whispering, you need to write. You're going to eventually one day write a book. But he didn't really say when. He just said, you're going to write a book. I thought that the answer to that, which of course, whenever we think and it's not from God, then it's not going to happen. But I really thought it was going to be that I would kind of chronicle my time in my 40s by moving and eating and all of that kind of stuff. And then write a book when I'm 50 about like health in your 40s and how that's different in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And who knows, I don't know if that would happen or not, but it really just grew from there. Cause you start learning one thing and then it's like, oh, well, if you want to write a blog, then you also, and then, and I love speaking. I feel like I'm relatively effective at it.
Yeah.
And that's like probably my favorite place of communicating with people because I can see their eyes light up. I can see what resonates with them. I can see what doesn't. And so it's really just kind of gone from there. But I would not say it was anything I ever chose to do. I was perfectly content in the role that I was in until God wanted me to go to a new role. And then we transitioned over there.
How did you know that it wasn't just you thinking it, that it was really God just talking to you?
Oh boy. I think because when I decided to take that step in, it felt right. And I felt settled. And I didn't have that inner tension of like, I'm doing this but it's not working. And and the other thing too, that I know that was the right thing is I'm probably too passionate about it. I mean, I love spending time on it. And yes, I get stressed. And yes, it's not like it's all roses and unicorns, but I love spending my time on getting this message out for other people because it's something that, doggone it took me till I was, in my late 30s to figure this out.
Right.
What if I had been able to recognize this when I was that 22-year-old?
Right.
And how would that have changed the trajectory of my life? And I remember one time at the end I was probably in my late 30s. I was like, God, I always wanted that 6-pack ab. I always wanted the belly button ring. Why didn't you give it to me?
The belly button
ring, the stupid belly button ring.
I'm like, why would you even want it though?
I know. That blew my kid away.
Yeah.
I told my kid that one time and he was like, what? He just couldn't get over it. And I'm like, I don't know, man.
Mom with the belly button.
Probably would have come out with that first pregnancy and never gone back in. But I just felt him saying, because you never would have been open to hearing this. And you never would have been open to moving that message on. And so that's one reason why I'm so passionate about working with young women.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, if I could just plant that seed, that doesn't mean that it's going to take root and blossom and grow, but if I could plant the seed, God will water it and hopefully it will touch them and give them that confidence that I didn't have back then and earlier than what it took for me to get that.
So would you say that's your purpose?
Absolutely right. I think right now, in that role, I mean, obviously I feel like I also have a purpose of being a good wife and a good mom and a good friend and all of that. But in terms of what I do in my time, yes. Yeah, for sure right now.
Yeah.
And that, it's funny, I've had conversations too. I mean, that the crux of my message is we take care of our bodies so we can do what we're called to do.
Right.
And not so to look a certain way. And I, with 100% conviction, know that this is what I'm called to do right now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ironic. But I don't know that this is where he's going to want me
10 years from now.
Yeah. Like, am I going to be doing this when I'm 57? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. But I think in this season, this is absolutely where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, do you think that's what drives you, is just knowing that that's his purpose for you right now?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, he's given me this, we'll just use this little stemless Louise cup with our sparkling grape juice. But he's given me this cup. And really what is filling it right now is this purpose that he gave me. And he's pouring into that. And so, yeah, I think it's because he has put this passion and purpose in me and what drives me all together at the one time. So it fuels itself. Like I never get up and go like, oh my gosh, I have to do a podcast. I do say that about socials, which you're not on social media, but that's
putting things on social media.
Putting things on social media. Because by nature, I'm kind of a private person. But that would be my only complaint about.
I think that's why you're so effective, because I think when you see somebody's passion for something, it drives you towards them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're confident about it because you've got that purpose and passion behind you. You know, and I think that's why you're so effective.
Maybe. Am I effective? I don't know.
You are darn effective, girl. Are you kidding me?
I just go I do what I do. That's
Yes, you're very effective. Was there someone in your life that kind of spurred you on, whether it was back in your 20s or whether it's now, to kind of get you to where you are?
For this message or for professionally, like with the training and all of that?
Either.
Well, he hates it when I talk about him, but really and truly my husband was integral in that.
Yeah.
Because he was constantly giving me the words and the affirmation that I needed when I was young and saying wonderful things and saying nice things.
Yeah.
And I mean, what is the intro says, without your, without your love, support, patience, grace, and always telling me I'm sexy, this book never would have happened. And that last part is a little bit of an inside joke with one of my friends, but it's also true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that he was holding my hand and kind of guiding me through finding my own confidence in myself.
Yeah.
And then one person professionally, from a fitness perspective, I think I look back into how I got into actually teaching classes. And there was two friends who started a pre and postnatal fitness studio in Tulsa, which is where I lived when I had my oldest son. And I went there, and they were kind of mutual friends. So I went there when I was pregnant, and then I went there when my oldest was born. And so we're all carrying in our newborns and our babies and our pregnant bellies and all of that. And just the community that we developed, and especially after he was born, showing up and just crying, he didn't sleep and I didn't either. And my nipples hurt from nursing and all of the things from a new mom's perspective. I think that was so important. And, I don't really keep in touch with any of those people, those women anymore, but having a safe space to talk and to grow and to be able to say this hurts or this didn't go well and still, feel accepted. I would say that was really influential because what I did was when I moved here, I went to, you and I live in the same neighborhood in this large Texas sized neighborhood. And I went to the person who's in charge of the recreation. And I was like, look, I think this place is ripe for a pre and postnatal program. And I ended up kind of starting one of those here because I knew how important it was I didn't have the language for it, but it was so important to my mental health. And I don't think I realized that that's what it was because I wasn't aware of how important that was then. And then that transitioned out after, I don't know, a year or so, but that's, so anyway, I would say professionally, those two girls, they didn't even know it. They probably still wouldn't know it. But what they did stepping out in faith for their business really impacted me and inspired me is a great word to go out and do something similar here and then go from there.
I love that. It's like a domino effect.
Yeah. You never know who you're going to touch.
That's
for
true.
Sure.
That's true. So I'm going to be honest with you. It's so funny because I was going through the book and, writing down some questions that I wanted to ask you. And, I had a weekend of eating. And so, when you eat a lot and then you wake up and you kind of already feel like you had breakfast, that kind of feeling. And so, I went out and I did a walk and a little bit of a run. I mean, I probably did a mile run or something like that. And then I did, a little bit longer walk. And then I came home and I felt like I didn't do my hour of workout. And I'm looking through your book, and I'm like, reading a few things. And then your one, what is it?
I have to get my hour of exercise in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was like, am I a freaking hypocrite? And I'm like, no, I'm not the hypocrite because I'm the one reading the book. You're the one leading it. But I'm like, okay, so then, my husband didn't we needed a rental car and they didn't have one. So in the meantime, I don't have a car. So I was like, oh, I could call Amy and have her come pick me up. And then I'm like, no, I'll get on my bike, and get a little more exercise in. And it made me think like, okay, is this like, so number one, what would you tell me as a reader? And then do you ever get to a point where you have to check yourself? Like and go, because I don't realize I'm doing that. I mean, it's just part of what I do. And I don't know, is that healthy? I don't know.
I want to answer the second one. Absolutely. Everything I wrote in here was part of my own story. And I absolutely, yes, have to check myself with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Some of it has been an easier transition to accepting and then, kind of passing that word along. And some of it I still have to like check and, be like, okay, wait a minute. So having said that, I would go back to like, what's your mindset behind it?
Yeah.
Now, I know that you like to move for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
Some of it's your body, some of it's your mind. And I think that's, if you don't want me to say that, I can edit it out.
No, you can say it, yeah.
But I think that's really common with a lot of us.
Yeah.
And I know that continuing to move is really, really important every single day because you know that it makes you feel better. So I would say, well, why are you wanting to feel like you get that hour in? Is it because you need to check the boxes? Or is it because, you know what, it's sunny outside, it's fresh air, and, I'm just going to get this little bit of extra movement in, and by the way, I don't have a car. And so, it's funny. This is one of the chapters that I do worry a bit about people feeling shamed for wanting to get their hour of exercise in. And I don't want it to come across that way. But what I'm hoping to do is for people who feel unsuccessful if they haven't worked out an hour,
right,
to give them the freedom to pull that down.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, it's kind of like if you go to a party and everybody's having the birthday cake, you really don't want the birthday cake. But you're like, I will just to be social, and you feel guilty eating it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of women probably feel that way, right? And how do you get over that? Like, it's just, or just have half a piece, or, like, how do you get over the guilt of, I told myself I wasn't going to eat the birthday cake, and now I'm eating the birthday cake. I told myself I was going to work out an hour, and I'm not working out an hour,
Yeah. Well, that's when I really, for myself at least, I pull it back to, okay, what's my overall goal? And it's just like, if you invest in the stock market, you're going to go in at one point and hopefully exit out higher.
Right.
But you're going to have ups and downs and dips.
Right.
All throughout that entire process. I mean, there is no stock market, no stock that goes from point A to point B in a solid straight line.
Right.
And so I think that that's how we're going to be too. Like we're constantly taking care of our body. We're constantly, on this journey, but we're going to have ups and downs, and we're going to have the times that we go to the birthday party. And, and I would say like with that situation, now, number one, very rarely do I not feel like eating the cake. So I will eat the cake, but I heard somewhere, I think it was on Oprah. So obviously years ago, but she was saying she had a guest on that said after 3 bites, like you kind of lose that taste explosion in your mouth, right? Like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And after 3 bites, your mouth kind of gets used to it. And I don't know if this is scientific. I don't know if it's a real thing, but it stuck with me.
Yeah.
And, so maybe that's a situation where you're like, okay, right now, I'm trying not to eat any sugar because I want to reduce my inflammation. I want to sleep better. I want to feel better. I'm, just kind of trying to do some weight management or, whatever. But I'm going to have 3 bites. And then the birthday person feels loved.
Yeah.
I'm part of the community. People aren't going, well, why aren't you eating a cake? Are you
Yeah,
like
right.
that, having to deal with that. I
Yeah.
have the 3 bites and then I'm done with it.
Yeah.
And so, to me, that's a nice balanced way of approaching it. And then you're not killing your diet
Right.
if you have 3 bites of cake.
Right. That's great. Because the other part of it too is feeling like everybody's going, well, why aren't you having a glass of wine? And why aren't you, eating the cake? So it's changing the mental.
Yeah. And just, yeah. And the other thing too, I think sometimes we get stuck in our own head about like what we think we're supposed to be doing to fit in with other people.
Yes.
And they might just be like, well, how come you're not having like, hey, Amy, why aren't you having a glass of wine? Cause you normally do when you're in this social situation or something like that. Or, like a few weeks ago, I was with my girlfriends. I just did a podcast, a bonus one on camping with my friend, but I was with her and another friend and we had like a late dinner. I don't remember what it was, but like I woke up and my belly just exactly what you were just talking about. Like I already felt like I had breakfast.
Right.
And I normally don't eat first thing in the morning anyway. And they're like, well, hey, we're eating this. And I was like, I'm just not ready to eat yet. Mm-hmm. Now, one way in my head that could have gone is like, well, they're going to think I'm weird and they're going to think I'm controlling and they're going to think that, oh, well, she's just trying to manipulate. No, but really they were like
changing that mindset.
And they were like, all right.
Yeah. Exactly.
They didn't think about it nearly as much as I could have in my head.
Right.
Whereas me just going, no, I wasn't, and then when I was ready to eat, I ate and it just wasn't a big deal. So I think sometimes we do create this, you've used that word swirl and I love it. That swirl in our head of just ping ponging between the ears of things that just don't even deserve to have this space.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I love that. That's great. So today is Martin Luther King's birthday.
It is.
As we sit here. And I wanted to quote one of his quotes, right? I wanted to say one of his quotes and then talk a little bit about you and kind of your journey. So here is his quote. Here is the true meaning and value of compassion and nonviolence. When it helps us to see the enemy's point of view, to hear his questions, to know his assessment of ourselves. For from his view, we may indeed see the basic weaknesses of our own condition. And if we are mature, we may learn and grow and profit from the wisdom of the brothers who are called the opposition. I'm going to read it again.
Oh,
really quickly.
Man. That's, yeah.
Here is the true meaning and value of compassion and nonviolence. When it helps us to see the enemy's point of view, to hear his questions, to know his assessment of ourselves. For from his view, we may indeed see the basic weaknesses of our own condition. And if we are mature, we may learn and grow and profit from the wisdom of the brothers who are called the opposition. I loved that.
Yeah.
So, I've watched you in the last couple of years with the, everything that's going on in our culture and with the racial divide that we've seen heightened in the last couple of years. And you've been really curious.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know, because I think I know, but I don't know if I really know, like, where did that come from? Like what, I know you talk about it in your book, kind of a journey that with a newfound friend during that time of, a Black woman. And number one, it's been very inspiring for me, but I've also, what inspired you to kind of start that friendship? What inspired you to become curious?
That's a great question. And I wish I had a place that I could pin it. But I think really it was horrible situation after time of all of these often Black men getting either killed or beat up by police.
Yeah.
And, it happens once and you're like, and as a privileged white woman who's just never had to deal with any of that. I wish I could say that it like shook me to my core. Yeah. But it didn't. Yeah. But then it happened again. And then it happened again. And as I, and they're in the news and I just kind of started thinking, I'm like, what is going on? Like this does not seem like something that would be happening if it wasn't an issue.
Right. Right.
And, having said that, I know that, I mean, that does not mean all police officers are beating all, black, anything like that. But it's an issue, and then a deeper issue. And so I just kind of started listening. And I have one particular friend who was a compassionate, wiser person along this journey of racial understanding and racial justice. And so she was a really safe place for me to be like, I don't understand this, and she would have, we just had some really good conversations. And I think that she guided me along and was able to point me to some resources, some of which are in this book about like, hey, if you're wanting to learn more, go check this out. So like one of the ones that was really helpful to me was the Smartest Person in the Room podcast with Laura Tremaine. So Laura, has a friend who is biracial. She's Latina and Black, and they live in the LA area. And it was, I don't know how, maybe 8-ish episodes. And so Laura just kind of came to her, and actually Laura is similar to me. She grew up in a homogenous area in Oklahoma. She's about my age. And she just was, and she, was able to ask questions of this girl. And so it just was, the more I got into it, the more I realized I didn't know. And so I was just trying to learn more and more, and to listen and to be involved. And, my friend with my friendship with Kamisha really came out, and that's who you're talking about. After George Floyd died, I had joined, so I had been on this path, and our neighborhood has like a racial justice Facebook group that I think was viewed a little differently from the white perspective and the Black perspective, but regardless, we all got on there. And I met her because I just said, hey, look, I don't know what else to do, but I know that I lead classes, and, any Black women are free to come 2 times and just, I don't know. That was what I knew to do.
Yeah.
And she came, and she even shared on the podcast, I think you listened to, that she was like, yeah, these aren't my people.
Which I thought the podcast was amazing.
Oh, thanks.
I told you that. It was one of the best
she was really, really helpful. And then Black Girls Run had that, it was a virtual race called Erase Racism that again came out of the events of, I would just say spring, early summer of 2020. Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd. I mean, there were tons of them. So, and then that's when we really got on. And like you, we just went deep really, really quick, because we kind of knew that we were both there for a purpose. Right. And it wasn't, we just kind of knocked off all of the, superficial stuff and dug in really, really quickly.
So the purpose was to understand each other.
Yeah. And just to have an open and safe place to have a conversation.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there was like one point that I felt like this happened and my eyes were awakened. It was just more of a sitting back and observing, and then slowly starting to realize that observing is good. Yeah. And then the next step is interacting more, or taking questions, or taking taking action, or something like that, and just kind of moving into it that way.
It just was funny. It was, because this was almost like really a 2-year journey that I kind of watched you, because I could see the seed being kind of sprouted in your head, where you're like, I don't understand, and I'm trying to understand. And, we would go to
Toastmasters.
We'd go to Toastmasters, and there'd be somebody in the room, and you'd question, like, I wonder what they thought when I said that, or, I wonder what they meant when they said, I could tell that there's this seed being like sprouted in your head. Yeah. And that was a year before you even met Kamisha, at least a year. Yeah. I could tell it was rubbing on you. Like, I want to understand, I want to understand who they are. Our differences, because we do have differences, anyways, it was fun to kind of watch your journey on it. And you were so intent on, I'm going to figure this out. I'm reading books.
Yeah. Well, and I think as you're pulling that up, the other thing I would add to that is it's going to be different for every single person, just like you and I have our own story and
Right.
perspective. And so I can't be like, well, all Black people think this
Right.
when I say this, you know, I
Right.
mean, that's just going to be perceived differently.
Yeah.
So that again is one thing that I'm learning, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't just put all of one race into a bucket or all of one ideology or theology or anything like that. Like
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, well, this is how all people are. And so that's one thing that I'm recognizing too and remembering is just because Kamisha teaches me something, that doesn't mean that that's someone else's perspective or experience or how they even believe.
Right.
It's just hers.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I love that. So, you have 2 boys and I have 3 boys.
You do.
And so, you know, I've watched you like as you're mentoring and doing fitness classes for young women. And I know you've kind of have a passion towards that. If you had a daughter and let's say she was 16, the age of your youngest, and she was sitting in front of you right now, and this was the last speech you were going to give her, what would you say to her?
Oh man, Laura. Yeah, it's funny. I have said as of late that I feel like God gave me boys because that way I can be fully immersed into the girls that I work with and not feel like I'm crossing any boundaries with my children, because, you know, just boys are different than girls.
Yeah.
But if I had a 16-year-old daughter, oh my gosh, I think I would say, your body does not define your worth. And there's a lot of stuff out there that focuses a lot on the body. And thankfully, we're getting more into a wider range of acceptance and body positivity. But regardless of what it looks like, you need to take care of yourself. And you take care of yourself by taking care, starting from the top down. You got to take care of your mental health, your emotions, get language for those emotions. Because what I'm learning is it's all connected. We can't just think of fitness from the neck down. And so
It's so funny because that's your book. Like it's just as much faith and the mental part of it as it is the health and body part of it.
yeah,
That's what I love about your book, you know?
yeah, because it is so integrated. And that was not what I grew up. I mean, to me, it was like, just get the body, right? Get the biceps, get the abs, get the you know, whatever. But I would just say, you know, God created you uniquely. He created you with purpose. You're going to look different than the other people. And that's on purpose. And that's good. And when you take care of it and how you know, in the best way that you know how, because it all changes, right? And take care of your head, take care of your mental health, move your body, eat foods in general that make you feel well and make your brain feel good and your heart feel good. And, and then remember the overall crux of it, which is you're preparing your body to do what God is wanting you to do. And that might be so that you can be clear-headed and study for your chemistry test. We don't need to worry about what you're going to be doing when you're 30,
Right.
16-year-old daughter.
Right.
We just need to be worried about how you can, have a killer volleyball game.
Right.
Or sleep well, or, fuel yourself and move and recognize that when you move, your brain feels better. And when your brain feels better, your relationships are better. And like really just integrating all of that rather than focusing on one particular aspect of it.
I love that your body is different. It's going to be different than every other person, and God created it that way. I love that.
Well, it's so easy to get caught. I mean, even where I am now, it's so easy to get caught in that comparison trap. And that, like, oh gosh, like you're a naturally tall and slender person. And I know that you work as well with that. But, it's pretty easy for me to be like, oh gosh, Laura's so much skinnier than I am. Like what good does that do?
And I'd be like, you've got better arms than me.
But I think it's really easy to get caught up in that. But then when I recognize or when I remember, no, I'm unique. and God made me out of two human beings who were unique. And it's just, and who I am and what I am is exactly how he designed me to be. And, well, it's like Teddy Roosevelt, I think, or Winston Churchill, one of them, comparison is the thief of joy. Like, stop comparing, then you're not going to find joy. Cause I bet I can jump higher than you.
Yeah. It's so funny because I was talking to a friend of mine that's little and she's cute. And she's going to Vegas with some friends who are hot. And she goes, Laura, I'm going with these friends. And she goes, this one's got the body and this one's got the eyes that are and they're hot. She goes, I've never been called hot.
Yeah.
And she goes, I've been called cute. And I go, well, you're lucky. I've never been called hot or cute. And she goes, you've been called pretty. I go, okay, I've been called pretty. But you know what? I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm totally okay with that. I am what I am. But, I'm 52. So does it take that long? Like, how can you groom your daughters to be okay with who they are? And maybe they're not hot.
Yeah.
But maybe they're cute and that,
Yeah.
And when they get married and their husband calls them sexy, then they're hot. I mean...
Well, and I think too, I had a counselor on in March of 2020, and it was talking about, raising daughters with a healthy body image. And the one thing that she said that stuck with me so heavily was, and I think that this is true probably regardless of the gender of your child, but they pay more attention to daughters pay more attention to what their moms say about themselves and about other people than they do about what they're saying about their daughters. So you can tell your daughter all day long, oh, honey, you're gorgeous. You're wonderful. You're unique. You're beautiful. God made you wonderful. And if you are in the dressing room with your daughter at Macy's and you try on the jeans and go, man, I just am so fat in these.
That's good.
Or oh boy, I had that chocolate cake at, my friend's birthday party last night and I need to watch it because I had that cake.
Yeah.
Or, saying something about someone else that you see as you're driving along. Like, that's the kind of thing that this counselor was telling me that will stay with the daughters much longer than mom saying to daughter, honey, you're beautiful.
Right.
And so I think that that's a really important thing to remember. And I think that that's true with boys too. It's different, but let's be real. These guys, they're seeing stuff and they're trying to uphold, live up to the Instagram feeds or Snapchat feed or TikTok or whatever it is that they're into, the super jack guys and all that. I mean, they've got their own things that they're trying to uphold too.
No, that's good. So I've got a question and then I've got just a last little quick round question. Projecting 10 years from now, if it was your ultimate dream of what you would want your business to look like, how you're impacting the world, and it was just this beautiful, perfect, exactly the way you'd want it, what would that look like?
You sound like my husband. He's always like, what are your goals? What are your goals?
But I'm not even talking about your goals. I'm just talking about if you were to paint this beautiful picture of how you would like it to look, what would that look like?
From a written perspective, my next project is converting 292 pages of Your Worthy Body to an interactive, almost journal for young women.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So taking out the stories that aren't going to resonate with them, changing things, taking out a lot of the words, making a lot more. So I really would like to do that.
Now, will that be a faith-based?
I think so.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different conversation because my faith is so integral to all of this.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I've had friends who are not Christians and they've read it. And I had a friend who was not, she's, not a Christian. And then she gave it to her mother-in-law who is of a completely different religion. And she was like, you need to read this. And I said, well, I'm kind of surprised that you did that. She was like, it's Christian. She was like, but it's not like overbearing.
Yeah. Right.
Which
it's not.
Which is interesting because that's kind of how I feel like I am in my general self.
That you're overbearing?
I feel like I'm not overbearing. Like, I'll talk about my faith all day.
Yeah.
But you may not know about that if you just meet me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's a good question. Is the young women's version faith-based? Probably. Probably, because to me, that's such a big part of this. Again,
Okay.
you take care of your body so you can do what you're called to do.
Right.
I have toyed around with doing like a more in-depth Bible study, which I would need a partner with. And I've got a girl who she's kind of she's starting her journey with this, with her own writing. And so we've said, let's just put this out there and let's just see. Mm-hmm. So I would like to have those 3 things. One thing I have learned is I'm not interested in doing some sort of online classes, programs, pull up an app and do a workout with me. That's too much work. That's a lot of work. I see it. I see people who have started with nothing and they've grown to that. I don't want to do that much work. I work hard, but that's just for that. Yeah. And beyond that, I don't know. The other thing that I would love to do is step more into the speaking / educational aspect of it more. Yeah. I hear stories about coaches, either, high school or middle school based coaches or club coaches who are saying things or doing things. And I'm like, you're like, they're going to get hurt. You're going to overtrain them. Right. I had a mom tell me her coach told her daughter, you're going to run around this track till you throw up.
Oh, geez.
So that's the kind of, I would love to, I would love to get into more of an educational stuff. I love teaching people the why behind what I'm telling them to do. Right. So maybe going and working with, youth programs, like I've worked with a lot with the volleyball players around here, but like going in and saying, these are the kinds of things that if you do these, you will be a stronger player and you're less apt to get hurt. Yeah. And then the other thing too, and there's already a girl kind of in this space, but I would love to explore mentoring and coaching young fitness professionals on how to deal with like women over 40, because we're different. Yeah. Let's talk about the mindset. Let's talk about the words and the language that you're using. Yeah. And kind of give them a little bit of a hard, loving truth about the influence that they have. Rather than assuming everybody is in there to lose weight, who are counting calories burned. I mean, all of that kind of stuff, and just giving a broader perspective. Yeah, I don't know how to do that, but that would be another thing that I would love to explore doing.
I love that just because it takes the mind into it as well, which is so much a part of your health. Yeah. Okay, it's. One thing that you did not describe of yourself in the intro was you're very witty. And so your book...
Do you think so?
Oh my gosh, Amy. I mean, your book
I would never consider myself witty.
You're very witty. Your book is very witty. I mean, to give you an example, when you were writing about when you go to exercise classes and afterwards everybody claps and you're like, why the heck do we do that? Like, is it for the instructor? Is it for that I finished the class? Like... I'm like, that's true. Why do we do that? Yay! Anyways, the book is really witty. It's really funny, which makes it a really easy read.
Thanks.
So the last question that I have for you, and I apologize if this has been asked on your podcast before, but I have not heard it yet. Okay. But I know you ask a lot of the people that you interview if they have a tattoo.
I do.
You do?
No. I
do
ask that question.
I was like, wait a second. I didn't think you had a tattoo.
No. So you're turning the tables on me.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good way. That's a good one. I like it. I do not have a tattoo. And we have talked a lot about this at the dinner table. And one of my boys was like, do you secretly want one? I was like, no, I really don't. But I just think it's an interesting thing to do. But I have decided where it would go. And it would go right behind my ear. Oh. Because when my hair is down, you can't see it. But when my hair's up, which is often, especially when I'm working out, then it's up. Okay. And so it can be seen if I want it to be seen and not seen if I don't want it to be seen. Okay. And I have no idea. I feel like the Christian response should be that I would get a cross on it. And maybe it would be. Yeah. I mean, I think that if I had to like make a split second decision, I would do that. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? All of those times. I mean, how many times have I asked that question?
I can't believe you haven't thought about it.
It took me a long time to figure out where I would put it.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. Dr. Yanni Proctor was on about a year ago, and she was like, well, what about you? She was like, where would you put one? And I was like, I don't know. And I was like, maybe. And I pulled out my wrist. She was like, no, you're not going to be one of those girls who puts it on your wrist.
Why?
I don't know. She was just giving me a hard time.
Oh.
I think it's the white girl thing to do.
Oh, right. No, you're right. It's kind of like the, in the back. Yeah, no, we won't talk about that.
Yeah. But no, I don't know. I think I really don't know. It took me a long time to figure out where it would go.
Yeah.
So give me another 6 months and maybe I'll know what would go there.
Okay.
Probably across.
Yeah.
Maybe if there was like a scripture, but I have meaningful scripture changes all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that I like that you can show it or not show it.
You know what I could do is I could do my kids' initials, which their initials are S and M. And so I would have S and M behind my ear.
No, you're not witty. Have you thought about that, or did that just pop up?
I haven't thought about putting it up there, but ever since they were really, really little, I realized like if I'm, typing something to my husband, I can't be like S and M.
No, I'm not sure if that would be good for your persona as a
that would not be on brand
author and speaker.
That would not be on brand. Yeah, so I won't do that.
So,
all right, here's some chocolate. And our sparkling grape.
And our sparkling
January.
That's right. And then in February, we're getting the real stuff. Yes.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks, Amy. It was fun.
That was a lot of fun for me. I hope you had fun too. Hey, if you would like to help me celebrate the 200 episodes, here are 4 simple things. I'm all about simplicity. Here are 4 simple things you can do to help me celebrate. Number 1, buy a copy of Your Worthy Body. If you have not yet done that, you can go find it on Amazon. There's a link in the show notes. Number 2, write a review on Amazon. These mean so much, and they just take 5 minutes. You just have to put together 1 to 3 sentences, an honest one, super, super helpful, and it will help get the word out to others. Number 3, review this podcast. Again, I'll have a link in the show notes for that. And then number 4, if your church or organization needs a speaker promoting wellness with balance, freedom, and grace, if you would pass my name along, I would so greatly appreciate that. I have spoken with faith-based organizations. I have spoken with major corporations and everything in between. So I am able to tailor my message to the audience. And they can learn more at gracedhealth.com/speaking. That's gracedhealth.com/speaking. Now, in every episode, I like to leave you with one simple thing I want you to remember. And today's simple thing is something we did not talk at all about in our conversation, but I want you to know how grateful I am for you. Did you know there are over 2 million podcasts out there? And that is up from about 800,000 when I started back in October 2019. They're just growing exponentially. I understand you have a lot of people vying for your attention, and I'm thankful. And I do not take that lightly that you have chosen to support the podcast and tune in. I'm appreciative of your time, of your attention, and when you share this, that's always really helpful as well. So that's the one simple thing. I just want to thank you for all of your support over the last 200 episodes. Okay, that is all for today. Go out there and have a graced day.